Got a big show on tap tonight, don't you, buddy?
Well, yeah, big show. I mean, Joe Davidson. When it comes to covering sports, you don't get much better than Joe Davidson.
Sports? What kind of sports are we talking about?
High school sports. I mean, I've been chasing this guy for a long time. So to finally land him and get him on the Phantom Talk Show, that's a big deal. So I got to be ready. This guy is meticulous in his preparation. I have to be the same.
So it's that Joe Davidson.
That's the Joe Davidson I'm talking about, the one who writes about sports like 24/7, 365. We're lucky enough to get a hole in his schedule, and we're lucky enough to see him tonight.
Meticulous is in the building. I don't think you want to keep him waiting, do you?
Oh, all right, Coco, I got to go. All right, I got to go down the hall. You can follow me if you want. It's pretty exciting. Right down here. Very long hallway. Warning. Right down here. All right, Joe, here I come.
Coming to you live from the Stone Studios, it's the Phantoms Talk Show, filmed in front of a live studio audience of one.
Admired you as Mr. Basketball.
Yes, we'll talk about that, Jerry.
And certainly I have no gender reveal. I've been more or less a man, as far as I know.
More or less, I think, is the key.
Yeah.
What exactly are you the GOAT of? Is it prep reporting? Is it high schools? Is it college? What are you? You're definitely the GOAT. But what of? What's too far for Mom to drive? And I want to get outside because I had one of those who goes, I think Fullerton's far enough away that Mom can't come on a Thursday.
A bar, restaurant, whatever it may be, something to find.
I like how you go lessons or working at a bar.
It's one or the other. Yeah. It's one or the other.
They're like, really didn't pay much attention to me. So I thought, well, maybe I can make Tom laugh and maybe I'll get on the country show.
This week's guest is Joe Davidson. And now, the guy you've all been waiting for. It's the Phantom.
Hello, everybody. This is the Phantom Talk Show. And today's guest is, well, we've had a lot of great guests on the Phantom Talk Show. We've had accomplished athletes and actors and everything and musicians and all kinds of stuff. But we've never really had a GOAT. And today we have a GOAT. And Joe Davidson from the Sacramento Bee and beyond. My first question to you is, what exactly are you the GOAT of? Is it prep reporting? Is it high schools? Is it college? What are you? You're definitely the GOAT. But what of?
Well, I love it. Thanks for this great introduction, and thanks for this padded cell of a room in here.
Yes, it is quite ominous, isn't it?
There's lunacy in here. I could see it. I've heard it.
Yes.
I've seen it. We're on full blast right here. So I appreciate the GOAT, which is the grimmest of all time.
Could
or something
be.
like that.
Yes.
But
the grindiest of all time.
Grindiest. We'll take that.
Definitely.
So I'm in my 34th year at the Sacramento Bee. Before the internet. How did we ever get along? I mean, how did I even find this house?
You can't ask all the questions I have written down here. You're asking all the questions now that I have this written down here.
Exactly. So I pride myself in Phantom, and we go way back. I pride myself in giving the Sacramento region the best local coverage, and it's heavy on high school football, heavy on high school basketball, Sac State football, UC Davis football. If there are guys who've been drafted into the big leagues or the NFL, Shaq Thompson, Eric Armstead, I know those guys,
right? And
I've covered them, so we'll continue those kind of things. I've had my hand in the Kings. I headed our NBA coverage in the 2000s when Rick Adelman and Vlade Divac and Chris Webber, and I see the great Jerry Reynolds here in some of these spots, and we
he haunts the studio a lot.
Yes, he does. And he graces it with greatness. Look how young and vibrant he looks. And
yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah, and one time he collapsed on the court, so you just take that little cardboard cutout and just push it forward, and it just.
I was there. I was at that game. I was at the game.
I don't think I was there. I was a little bit before me, and so back to the Kings. So if there's a reflective throwback and a look at some of their bad drafts and this, and I'll do those stories. Jerry Reynolds always a great source. So try to keep on top of the local coverage. I still enjoy it. I still enjoy high school football playoffs are coming up. Sacramento State and UC Davis have been FCS ranked. They're really good teams. I got a lot of local dudes. The coaches are good guys, so those are fun. Controlled environment in a press box. Catered food, printed out stats.
Okay, that's not our experience with American River, but yeah,
you get and I'll touch on the junior colleges. I think, and I know you've been all over American River College. The Beavers play tremendous JC football. I tell high school kids all the time and their families over 25 years. If you think your kid, or if you think you, son, are worthy of playing college football at Cal or at Sac State or USC, go to a JC game and watch it from field level, even if
Absolutely.
it's a practice,
Yeah.
and see if you measure up. Because a lot of times high school kids go in there and they are stunned.
Absolutely
At
stunned.
how talented and deep it is. And it's across the whole state. Because you can only get so many kids scholarships.
Yeah. It's a finite group, and there's ever more kids that are trying to get there. And I have like 9 questions or stuff to ask you. You've already answered them all, so we're done.
We're
I'm just
good.
going to have
I'm here for the
Stones.
beer.
I'm just going to have Stones cut up the answers, and I'll put the questions in later.
That'll work.
But I mean, you know,
While Stones is here, I'll take an 805. If you don't have that, I'll do a Modelo. If you don't have that, I'll go with a Coors Light or Bud Light. So
the problem is he's got
on it.
all of them. That's the problem.
That's why we're
So
here.
an example of how hard you work and how much you grind is the fact that I've been, chasing you for years to try to get you first out to a Potters game and next to do this, and you're very gracious. But the last confirmation text I sent you or DM I sent you, I got an answer from you at 1:07 a.m.
Right.
So I think that says a lot about you and about what you're into. And I just want to know during
Phantom, you were that low on the priority list.
as long as I got one, Joe, I really don't care. At my age, it doesn't matter.
Shovel the manure out of the barn was right below, right in front of you.
I thought you shoveled it out, and there was my request on the
Exactly
bottom.
right.
So take me through a typical day. We'll talk about during football season, during high school football season, because that seems to be the busiest time. Take me through a typical day in the life of Joe Davidson, following high school stories, etc.
Well, I'll go through a week.
Okay,
which is
a week
easier.
is fine.
And we'll go not to bore people, but so I usually start on a Sunday, and that's when you're creating photo assignments, be a Sac State game, a UC Davis game, 2 or 3 high school games, and then I'll do a budget and what games we're covering, and then we usually do, we'll do a high school player of the week voting poll, huge numbers. We'll get 50 to 60,000 voters.
Absolutely.
But you could vote as many times as you want. They're not rigged. It's not a scam. We get that all the time from a bitter grandmother. This is, I'm from Winners and you guys are stealing it. And, said it's all about fun.
It's all about fun.
Nobody's rigged. And then we'll do one for the girls. And then I do a top 25 high school football rankings. But because we value our subscribers and our followers, it's not just team record, the next team record. I put a capsule with each one.
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
people can learn about them. And you drop in names, and then coaches roll with it too, Phantom. They'll start to text me, I have some linemen you might want to drop in, or a defensive tackle or a cornerback.
Because what's the value of a kid seeing his name in the paper?
They love
whether
it.
it's just
And
a
it
mention.
shows
We have the
that-
same thing on the radio broadcast. You throw a
Exactly.
name in now and then.
But so we have that kind of thing going, and then I like to go to a football practice once a week. I go to Sac State football practice every Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay.
And then I'll go to a high school practice for a feature, or maybe if it's a playoff game. Perfect example, I'm doing a playoff game this week, Vacaville at Elk Grove. I live in Elk Grove, so I'll go to probably Elk Grove's practice on Thursday just to kind of get a head start. And because I try to, it's not a game story. It's a feature with a game
just
element.
background. So you're getting background
And
basically.
who these people are,
Yeah.
and why they coach, and who this kid is, and who that kid is, and try to make it so it's a featurey type of thing, and it's a clip that somebody could have forever. If it's just a rehash of the box score, it's pretty boring. And I tell our guys not to do that. And so it feels like an 8-day-a-week grind, but we're not shoveling manure or driving
You're really
a truck.
fixated on shoveling manure. Is that something? You're out in Elk Grove. Is that a problem out there?
Could be. It's not a. It's a sanitation. No,
It's an
I'm
issue.
a farm kid from Oregon, and I did some of those.
We'll get to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to watch reruns of Yellowstone with John Dutton, otherwise known as Kevin Costner.
yeah.
And I was thinking I could relate to some of that stuff.
You can't relate to the guy Casey, the son, who kills a guy every week and gets away with it.
They all
That's
kill
crazy.
everybody.
It's nuts.
It's a frontier justice where
They're just blowing people away right and left.
And then the train station, the hide behind
train station.
The train station, for people who don't know, in Yellowstone it's a one-way ticket.
It's a euphemism
to
in a way.
nowheres.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Out in the
Well,
bottom of
you
a
talk
canyon.
about the fact you've been at the Bee since 88, 34 years. Something that's really changed in all your time there, and I know you like to touch everybody as far as your range is concerned, but the social media aspect. When you first started, there wasn't any, right? But now it's changing, and I think we probably amplified it, tenfold or whatever. You mentioned you're getting grandmothers from Winners could call you, but now they can text you, now they can tweet you, now there's a lot of ways to get in touch with you. So how has that changed the way you cover the game?
It's helped immensely.
Yeah.
And I was slow to the social media game. And I have a kid sister, Emily Peters, and she runs a nonprofit in San Francisco. And I remember it was like 2008 or 9.
Yeah.
And she said, Joe, you should get into social media. And I held on to my BlackBerry phone as long as I could, type of thing. And so then I did, and the numbers exploded. And it's like it's a huge thing. You could have quick hit commentary, or we used to do radio appearances, we could kind of tease to that.
Absolutely.
Or, hey, I'm at a Kings playoff game, or Sac State, and I get a lot of engagement. You get some snarky dopies, and I call them nobodies, and we, you kind of banter back and forth, and you're trying to do the best you can, and but that's been a big deal. I don't like the idea of Twitter or X and Elon Musk wanting to charge for people to use.
Right.
I think we'll lose a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And I sure hope not. But Facebook is big. Instagram. I don't do TikTok.
Probably missing it. I mean,
I'm
you
not even
shoveling
sure.
manure on TikTok
is
would probably
TikTok
be huge.
even uppercase? Is there a
I
hyphen
have no
in
idea.
there?
I have no idea.
And there's other social media platforms that I don't get into. I probably should, but I'm old now. I'm cranky. For years I was the young guy at the B. Now I'm the old guy.
But
How'd
what
that happen?
impresses me about your social media is your accessibility, because people reach out to you, and and you answer them, even if they are the nobodies, even if they ask you weird stuff. They do, and I know that you get people that say, "Oh, you're rigging the polls." I know you get people all the time. One of the main threads is, "Oh, these guys are cheating, and these guys have transfers." It doesn't seem like you've dealt with as much of that this year, as far as dealing with that. What has been the topics that people have been asking you about this year?
Well, to go back, for years, it was always, there's this general theme that nobody's winning championships honorably.
Right,
When
exactly.
Del Oro was winning section football champs, well, they got all these incoming freshmen coming from another district, and I'm thinking, really? And Folsom football, well, they got an inordinate amount of transfers. They get guys from here and there, and I said, well, yeah, they get a lot of incoming transfers, but everything has to be cleared. And if
There's a protocol for all these things. Yeah.
And they're not going to risk their reputation to have sanctions and playoff bans to sell their souls. You hear all kinds of rumors that, they'll drive buses up to Reno to recruit kids. No, they're not. They're not going up to Reno to evaluate a seventh.
There's a lot of reasons to go to Reno, but that's not one of them.
Yeah,
Reno's,
exactly. More of I could think of better reasons too. And I'll say, hey, and I have brushed back. Well, everybody knows that Folsom's cheating. And I said, well, I don't know that. Do you know that? If you have evidence,
right,
don't sit on it. Do the civic good duty and send it to your principal and athletic director or the CIF governing body, because nobody's going to chase rumors. And that kind of silences a lot of people. And we will look into credible evidence of cheating, wrongdoing, recruiting, undue influence, and all that. But there's not a lot of it, and you'll have cycles where people are pretty mouthy and rude. But for the most part, people are pretty civil. And I hope, Phantom, they just generally appreciate having a dialogue and that we cover this stuff.
And how great is it for you to look back, and since 1989, for you to look back and know that you've been a part of so many kids' high school athletic memories. I mean, you've been part, like you talk about, a Shaq Thompson back in the day, and even before that, and kids from the last couple of years that, their high school memories are going to include you, as far as that's concerned.
Might be in
and
their cookbooks.
And your network, as far as people that you know and you run into. I mean, I'm fascinated every time I see you on Twitter and you got your arm around some coach that you know from somewhere that I have no idea how you remember who these people are. But that's got to be really heartwarming for you to know that you're part of this kind of thing for so many of these kids.
No, and it's really nice to know. And Jordan just stepped in. There's great. Now, here's the next generation.
That's what I'm worried about. Yeah, but we'll get to that
here's
later.
the next generation.
Yeah,
But,
that's why I'm glad I'm checking.
and people
out
are thinking
soon.
it's Michael Jordan.
No, they know it's
whatever.
Jordan Georgeson, the great Jordan Georgeson
of Gold Country, right?
Yeah.
He owes me a beer for the promotion. But no, it's very flattering, Phantom. I'll go to a game. Jordan and I were at a Bear River game. It was a Thursday game up in Lake in the Pines, and what a treat to go to a Thursday game.
Absolutely.
And I knew the two former coaches who mentored the current coach, Tanner Mathias. I've known him for 25 years, and they were there, and and they trusted me enough to talk about heartache in their lives. And Terry Logue, 200-game winner, had to step away from coaching because Parkinson's had really taken over his
These
body.
are legends, right? These guys
Great
are legends,
guy,
yeah.
and he couldn't drive anymore. He can't use a keyboard. He shared with me those stories, including a team feature, community feature, because he has known me for years. So there was
right.
value in that.
Yeah.
And then his co-coach and running mate, Scott Savoy, same thing. And, what can football do for a community? And Coach Savoy, retired Coach Savoy, had lost his wife almost a year to the date that we ran the story. And he said, this community helped me heal. And Terry Logue helped me heal. And he doesn't share that if I'm just somebody.
No.
And Jordan's going to get those contacts and resources and relationships over time, because that's the best part of this gig.
Well, who was so you're here for Jordan, you're we'll say mentoring for lack of a better word. Let's go back. We'll go back as far as Oregon if you want, but let's go back to when you started in your journalistic career. Who is some of the people that you learned under or mentored you?
Oh, some good ones. And I appreciate young guys like Jordan, young family man, good husband, good does a really good job. And
he's a grinder.
I will get on his Facebook and say, good read, good job there. But there's, we will cover some of the same games. But I'll lean on him and I'll promote him on social media. But sometimes I start talking to people and then I say, Jordan, I totally lost track of how many yards. I'll send it to you. We're not competing.
Really?
So he can't
says
give
that
me,
to you. He never says that to me when I lose track of stuff. And I'm working with the guy.
Because I know what he tells you. He says, Phantom, pay attention.
That's what he says.
For me, he says, Joe, I appreciate and respect you.
Yes.
I'll send you stats by
I know
the time
you were
I get
networking.
home.
I know you were networking, so I'll cover
It's all about
you.
respect.
Yeah, exactly.
So I grew up in the Oregon mountains on a farm. My stepdad was combat veteran, World War II, Battle of the Bulge, which was months after D-Day. That shaped him big time. My mom was Stanford educated, grew up in New York, was a personal assistant to Eleanor Roosevelt, the former First Lady.
That's a tough gig to get right there.
She got that in New York, and I was a real thrill for her. Got to meet a young Senator John F. Kennedy way back in 1948. And my stepdad was some 15 years older than my mom. My mom had 2 sets of boy-girl twins. I'm the younger set.
Okay.
Boy, girl. People always ask, you identical? I said, my twin sister doesn't grow quite the hardy beard.
There are certain
but I can't wear
differences.
my hair as long.
Yeah.
So, and then they'll go, oh, okay. They're concussed. But anyways.
Most people are.
Yeah. So my dad and my stepmom always lived in California. And so I spent a lot of summers in California. So I had the city living in the summer, and I had the...
So you were Green Acres.
I was Green Acres.
People of a certain age, you're Green Acres.
And I was carried a pitchfork.
And shoveling manure, of course.
Exactly.
Yes.
Up in the farm living. And so I played high school football, and then I ran track. I had my high school mile record for 25 years, which I love.
Hey, that's pretty sweet.
It was. It's good for the resume.
Absolutely.
Hi,
yeah.
I'm Joe Davidson. I once ran a 4 something.
Let's just, and it gets lower every year. That's
it gets faster.
I went a 403, yeah.
Next year it'll be, I ran a 3:59.99, yeah. But
You're
so I
blind
walked
and
into the Wallowa County Chieftain was our once-a-week paper, way up in the northeastern corner of the state. And I walked in, and the guy's name was Rick Swart, and I could still see him in my mind, Phantom. This old, crusty newspaper guy in an old newspaper setting once a week for this little county. And I said, I'd like to submit stories, of the games. I don't play basketball, but I could do game stories and this and that. And he looked me up and down, took his pipe out, and I was sweating. I was like, wow. He goes, all right, kid, I like your... I
like your gumption.
Name.
Did he say gumption?
He didn't say gumption, but he was the kind of guy who would say gumption.
That's what I.
And if he would have said gumption, I might have blown my career by saying, "What's a gumption? Get out of my office."
Rick would not have liked that.
Yeah, and back then I couldn't say, "Excuse me, sir," and check my phone.
No, you could not. No, you could go home.
We had rotary phones.
You could
then.
check out your
Let
phone.
me call my mother as I call all these numbers. And so I did some stories then and got hooked. And just thought I really want to do local stuff. And I came down here to go to college down to Sacramento. As I was going to school, I worked at the Davidson Enterprise in the mid '80s, and that was Bob Dunning, who still covers UC Davis football.
Legendary name, yeah.
And he was a mentor of mine. Tim Oglesby was another. And
before you go on, what part of it hooked you when you say you got hooked? I know you were playing. You played sports. You didn't play basketball, so you were doing the games. But what part of it was really really energized you as far as this? I like the writing part of it. I like transfer.
All of that.
getting-
It was Phantom. It was the competition is great and still is, but what people have to say afterwards.
Yeah,
And
okay.
I'm not National Enquirer. I'm not trying to get somebody to say, "Oh, we don't respect those guys." Now, if it was a college team or a pro team, everything
Right.
goes. High school
Absolutely.
kids, they get a little, they a little mouthy. You don't want to, we don't respect those guys. The next day when that runs or that night online, he might regret it because he's going to be running bleachers for the
Yeah, you
till
see
his
it in
legs
print,
fall
and
off.
it doesn't look the same.
Yeah,
it really
it's like,
does read
geez,
the same.
16 years old, probably shouldn't have said that. I like, to this day, I really enjoy covering the local stuff. If somebody were to ask me, Phantom, what would be your ideal sports gig in Sacramento? I said, I'm doing it. I'm doing local stuff. It's high schools, Sacramento State, local guys. I went to Stanford a couple weeks ago to catch up to Troy Taylor, the coach. I've known him for 25 years, got great insight. I get more insight and access than the Bay Area guys because I know them. So there's value to that. And just how teams respond. I was talking about that time that Jordan and I were at a Bear River game on a Thursday. I was going to do a game story, but this team from Mill Valley started to pull away. And I thought, you know what? I think I'll just do a program story on Bear River. The old coaches are here.
Right.
One of their pupils, Tanner Mathias, is the coach. And so I flushed it out, and I think we ran it a few days later with several photos, and we made it a big program story. And then even the principal said that he had lost his wife at the beginning of the academic year to cancer, and football in that community helped him heal. I said, I think I had a line in there where, the Mill Valley team won the game, but Bear River won the night. Football foothills, football fun in the foothills on a Thursday night, and it rocked. And so that was, you don't have to do a story if the team. It was still. I mean, you could still do a story if the team loses because it's not about the score.
Right. It sounds like you still get the same energy that you got 40 years ago doing stories. You still get the same energy. Maybe it's not a game story. Maybe, like you say, it's a program story, but you still get the energy. One thing I wanted to ask you about is something that we've talked about before, and I know you're an advocate of it, and it's multi-sporting on the high school level. And I always read you when you say that, and I totally agree with you. I think kids should play as many sports as they can. But these days, and I had two sons that played in high school, and they both played two sports, but it's not easy these days unless you're one of those superior athletes that just can go from sport to sport. It's really tough because whatever sports you play usually has off-season training, and they've got stuff, and you're going to miss that if you're in a different sport. So I think it's become a little more difficult, would you agree, to play two sports because we have so much specialization now?
Exactly right. And I'm going to go back for 1 second. You were asking what kind of sustained me. There are times and weeks, and Jordan will run into it too as a young father, where you just wonder, Jesus, anybody really reading our stuff anymore? You're tired, blah, blah. Then you get to a game and you got alums and principals and ADs and former coaches and former players. Hey, Joe D, hey, what's going on? And they all appreciate it. It's like, boy, you talk about getting rejuvenated. So the point being, people care and they do pay attention. So great topic, though, Phantom, on multi-sporting. Years ago, everybody played three sports.
Sure.
But the seasons are longer now. You look at high school football, and for decades, you played 10 regular season games, win a league championship, or try to win one, season over.
And the next day you're playing basketball.
Exactly.
Or you're wrestling
And
or
that's in
whatever it is.
November.
Yeah.
And since 2006 or so, the playoffs extended to a state championship. And now that's 15 or 16 weeks. So if you're a player at Folsom, Del Oro, any of these teams that expect to be in a final game of the season, everybody expects to, but the realistic ones, that's pretty hard. You're going to come out to basketball and it's already mid-December.
Right.
Maybe late December. And you could be in terrific football shape. And then you start running gassers in basketball, and all of a sudden you feel like you're out of shape.
Absolutely
Same with
different,
wrestling,
yeah.
different kind of conditioning. I just know that in all the years doing this, you talk to college coaches, even medical officials, and they'll say it's good for the body to play different sports,
right?
And it's good spiritually. And for a high school kid, man, it's this time of your life. You got the rest of your life to be serious, but so play as many sports as you can. And if you're a football lineman, and I've seen it happen at Folsom, Cody Creason was a perfect example. It was like 8 years ago.
Recognize the name, yeah.
And he was on that 2014 team at Folsom that went 16-0 with Jake Browning, Jonah Williams, both in the NFL. And Cody Creason was a kid who loved playing basketball, but he wasn't very good at basketball. And he played his senior year because he wanted to be part of the team. Plus, he knew, because his high school coaches told him, Troy Taylor and Chris Richardson, that college football recruiters may come watch him in basketball to see how his footwork
athleticism,
does he have
footwork?
good hands?
Yes.
Is he a complainer?
Right.
Is he a whiner? Is he a good
competitor?
sportsman?
Yeah.
And but what they saw in him was a kid who turned beet red. They always used to tease him, flush red. But he set good picks. He hustled, probably averaged 2 points and 2 rebounds a game. But he was a team guy. University of Arizona grabbed him. That sealed the deal for Arizona.
Right.
They got to see this guy outside of his shoulder pads, helmet. You could see his face. And he wound up starting 2 or 3 years in the trenches at Arizona.
Yeah, so you can be a multi-sporter and not be a star in both sports or either sport.
Do it because
you just do it, and like
do
you
it
say,
because it's fun.
Yeah, there are kids. I remember when my son was playing basketball last year, he had a couple of football players on the team. That's because they were the seniors who'd been playing all the way through, and they just wanted to play basketball one more year. And like you say, that's a benefit to them, and they just want to have fun, and they had a great time. So there you go.
Another example is Carter Jackson, running back for the Granite Bay Grizzlies. Great speed. He's a junior verbal commit to Cal. He hasn't signed anything yet. He may go anywhere else. He likes to run track because you're going to win a lot of races.
He's very fast.
And what's interesting is he's probably the fastest football player in the South Kings section, probably the fastest I've seen.
Right.
He's not the fastest in the section in track because it's you got to come out of the blocks and everything, put a ball. If he ran the 100-meter dash or the 200,
not a bad idea.
If they let him carry a ball, I think he'd win every time.
That's not a bad idea. We might want to do that, put on a match race like that. Joe, I really appreciate you spending some time with me. I've had a great time. Millions of more things we could talk about. I want to end on, we had Jordan in here a couple of minutes ago.
I think Jordan's fed up.
Yeah, he'd listened to you for a while and said, that's not the guy I know.
I'm going home.
But, I mean, we had a couple of years ago, Cameron Salerno came through, and he was a guy who kind of followed in your footsteps. A lot of the guys are doing that. They see you as the guy like you saw Bob back in the day or whatever. So
Bob
what are
Dunning,
some
right.
tips you have for people who want to get into it or want to know if maybe this is what they should do? What kind of advice do you have for
I
them?
talked to a lot of high school journalism classes. I've been at Sacramento State twice this season to talk to them. UC Davis, junior college, Sac City, Sacramento City College, Casitas River College. I love talking to the students, and I tell them, Phantom, don't listen to people that tell you that media is dead.
Right.
You could still
Huge.
make it a good deal. And if you want to get into journalism, sports, news writing, features, maybe they want to do music, maybe they want to do culinary, and there's people who want to do all of this. Maybe they want to get an investigative reporter. I said, you can do that, and you can get a head start by studying people who cover those items.
Right.
If you want to get into breaking news and all that, then read how it's done. Or if you want to be a broadcaster, study how they do it. And then find somebody you can reach out to and get some advice and this and that and chase after it. Because in this line of work, you have to chase it because they're not going to chase you. That's how I got my job at the Bee. At the Davidson Enterprise, 1984, just graduated from high school, 10-year-old prodigy, give or take. I walked into the Davidson Enterprise. I want to work here, kept pushing. They hired me. And then Sacramento Bee, I approached them. I figured if I'm going to live in this region, I'm going to work for the best media outlet in this region.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. And so I would tell people, you've got Twitter and social media and Facebook. You could write blogs. You could do audio blogs. You can do voiceover. You got things that you and I didn't have at that age. So chase after it. And there's a lot of people who want to get into it, and it will continue to sustain because there's value in good journalism.
So finally, obviously, you seem very happy in what you're doing. I'm not going to say, do you want to do anything else? How long do you see yourself doing this, and is there anything else that you want to do?
You know, I covered the Kings for a lot of years. I did the NBA. I've done the 49ers. Grew up a big NFL fan of the 70s. I'm a historian on all that. Never really wanted to cover the NFL.
No.
I wasn't a phantom of travel in the NBA. You know, I'd always overthink, and I'm going to miss my flight. Every flight's early in the morning, and it wore me out. And so that's not for me. Jason Anderson covers the Kings. Chris Biederman for the Bee, both of them, and they like to travel. And so that's interesting.
Yeah.
High school and college, I don't have much travel. You know, may have to drive to Yuba City. I had to drive to Roseville today.
Yeah, I know.
But,
from Elk Grove, that's quite a haul right there.
I'm doing exactly what I'd like to do. It's always nice if we can have more help so we could cover it more. I'd like to still continue to do behind the scenes stories on. I'd love to see a day in the life of a coach as they break down film
Right.
and all that. And these coaches are pretty accessible, so there's still good stories and it's still worth doing. When I started back in '89, we had 33 fewer high schools than we do
Right.
now.
Which is a huge issue. I mean,
I mean, it's like that's
it
reflective
impacts
of the
everything
growth.
that you cover now, right?
Oh, and it's just more
Yeah.
of it. And Sac State football has never been better. We have first-round draft picks in the NFL, in the NBA, Major League Baseball, a lot of them. And so it just continues. You could keep watching them and catching up to them when they come to Oakland or San Francisco and things like that. The Giants even have some local guys. So those don't get old. I always take my summer time off because you and I've tried to get together for a
For the
Potters
Potters,
game.
yeah.
And we'll do that, and I'll have one beer here, and I'll have a microphone here, and
I'll
I'll go,
guarantee
what happened?
You'll have beer. I guarantee you that. I know a guy who can take care of you. Joe, you're the best. Thanks
You're
so
the
much.
best. Thank you,
very
brother.
much. Joe Davidson, thank you. Thank you to Snows McCoy behind the glass, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on the Phantom Talk Show.